Hi, I'm Phil, and in these story analysis videos we take a look at the structure, character arcs and themes of a movie. Today, we're talking about everything, everywhere, all at once. Spoilers ahead, make sure you've seen the film. So as always, I'm going to begin with the structure of the film, and despite the chaos that appears to be in the film, it is really a basic 3-act structure when it comes right down to it. When you take a look at the A story and the B story, there is an inciting incident and major turning points for each of these, usually happening around the same time. So the A story is Evelyn going on this mad adventure, basically trying to defeat Joe Pitapaki.
No.
And that's the mission that she's been given. The B story is the relationship between Evelyn and her daughter, primarily, and then to a lesser extent her husband and her father. So the inciting incident for the A story is when Alpha Waymond takes over the body and plugs Evelyn into the multiverse. The inciting incident for the B story is a bit subtler. This actually comes earlier, and this is when, after we've established Evelyn's family life, working and living at the laundromat,
No shoes in washer. Broken you pay,
and the way she relates to her father, her husband, and the daughter. And there's two levels to this, actually. There's the first act turning point for the relationship with Waymond, which is him trying to present her with the divorce papers.
We talk later?
But the key one, with the daughter, is when she can't properly introduce her daughter's girlfriend to the father.
好朋友，老友嚟㗎。Mom.
And this creates the primary friction between mother and daughter. This exemplifies the difficulty in their relationship. Even though Evelyn kind of accepts it, she doesn't accept it enough that she can say this to her father. So that becomes the other B story for Evelyn, which is mending the relationship with her own father, which is her own personal growth journey when it comes down to it. So the B story, there's these three central relationships, but it's all about Evelyn. She is the central character after all. She's already received the call to adventure at the inciting incident from Hero's Journey. And she refuses this call to adventure.
Very busy today. No time to help you.
The first time she acts upon this, even though she's not sure what she's doing yet, is when the Jamie Lee Curtis character, Deidre, appears to be attacking them, and she punches her in the face. This is the first time that Evelyn starts to fight back, even though she's not been told why she's fighting back or what for yet. But she's been told she needs to fight, and this is the beginning of her starting to fight. And of course, this also then becomes the beginning of the mad chase with the police and the security officers and Joe Putapaki's agents.
I've seen you die in 1,000 ways, in 1,000 worlds. In every single one, you were murdered.
What? Why would anybody want to kill me?
So the first half of Act 2 is them now being on the run, essentially. This also, in terms of B story, becomes the moment when she does realize that Waymond is trying to divorce her, when she finally sees the other side of the piece of paper.
不是在说我们的事啊。
Dissolution of marriage? 这个是什么?
Now, the directors have, I think, wisely shown us that Joy, the daughter, is actually Joe Putapaki. They suggest this quite early on, and if you're paying attention, you'll find that. But Evelyn doesn't know this yet. Evelyn just knows that there is her daughter Joy, and there's this separate being out there that she's meant to battle by this weird name.
Joe Pitapaki.
You're just making up sounds.
Towards the end of the first sequence in Act 2 is the confrontation in the corridor when Joy, Joe Pitapaki, actually does now confront Evelyn, and she realizes they're the same person.
Juju to booty.
This is a major test for Evelyn, but it's not one of the big turning points because she has not yet made a decision about what to do about this. But it is the beginning of her coming to the realization about what to do. The next big turning point at the midpoint is when they're all upstairs in the office and the James Hong character, Gong Gong, the father, tells her that she must kill her own daughter.
While she is distracted. It's only protocol. It gives her one less universe to access.
That is for the A story. And for the B story, of course, it's killing her own daughter. she of course refuses to do this. And out of this emerges the fact that Evelyn herself can gain the same powers as Joe Patapaki.
Now I must stop you. Otherwise, it's only a matter of time before you become just like her.
Just like.
So now, from that midpoint on, Evelyn becomes the enemy to these alpha rebels who are trying to save the multiverse. By this point also, we've now had enough exposition peppered out to understand exactly how this world works. Up until now, there's been lots of weird stuff happening, but it's like, let's not explain too much too soon. And there is more yet to come. But by this point, we kind of understand, at least in principle, how things kind of work and why they require Evelyn to do what she does. But it's also around this point that Alpha Waymond says to Evelyn,
You're capable of anything because you're so bad at everything.
Now, in one sense, that's just a nice gag for the A-plot. She has all of this unfulfilled potential. But it's very similar, in a way, to the same beat in The Matrix, which I looked at a couple of weeks ago, where Neo goes and talks to the Oracle.
But you already know what I'm going to tell you.
I'm not the one.
Sorry, kid.
This is the moment where the central character, who's being told that they are the one who can save the universe. I mean, Evelyn is the same as Neo in The Matrix when it comes down to it. They are being told they are the one, and this beat tells us not until they believe it, not until they can actually believe it in their own skin, will they become the one, because it's pointless constantly telling them this when they don't believe it. Evelyn has to fulfill it in her own way. And at this point, she begins to. She now has the ability to reach the other universes, having been through a couple of stumbling blocks, find the skills, and now actually use them the way Alpha Waymond has been trying to train her to do. But she's also now aware that she can go there and live there. This becomes one of the key beats earlier on, where when she first discovers her movie star persona, she would like to stay there.
What if I want to go back to the other universe?
Shut it down! Shut it down, you hear me? Come back!
Okay.
And this introduces the concept of these cracks that can form, which is what happened to Joe Patapaki, after all. This is the danger of having this kind of access.
Warning, unstable.
Those overloaded mind usually dies. Instead, her mind was fractured.
Warning, unstable. Mind fracturing.
Our second act turning point, our all is lost moment, is when Alpha Waymond dies. And then, moments later, Evelyn dies.
Don't leave! Help her! Please! Help! Help!
End of movie, right? But this is the moment that Evelyn is able to live out fully her other personas in these other multiverse lives that she has. And this is primarily where we focus on the movie star version, which are very much based on Michelle Yeoh's real life, of course, and her reuniting with Waymond from that universe, in the version where they did not go away together, where she stayed with her father and learned martial arts and became a big movie star. In this scene, especially the sequence in the alley, the key thing here is, after all of the conversation that they have, when Waymond says,
如果有来生，我还是会选择和你一起报税，开始一天。
The second beat of that is when her Waymond, from this origin universe, gives his little speech about kindness.
The only thing I do know is that we have to be kind. Please, be kind.
These two little speeches of Waymond together are the things that help Evelyn change from fighting Joe Patapaki to trying to overcome her with kindness. And all the other agents that are attacking her, she will defeat with kindness by seeing what their flaw is, and rather than using it against them, helping them.
You might feel a little sore, but everything's looking pretty good.
Thank you.
All while intercutting between her various lives and seeing how they influence each other. So that, in terms of the A plot, leads us to Evelyn working out how to solve the problem of Joe Patapaki. The B plot, which is a relationship with her daughter, Joy, the main turning point here is when they finally end up in the universe together as rocks and can sit down because there are no distractions, there is nothing to get in the way, they can't run away from each other, and they just talk. This is the first time they've actually sat down and talked together in the entire film, really. This is the moment that that new bond begins to form. This then leads us into Act 3, which mostly takes place in the laundromat, which is the party that she's been planning there.
There is a Chinese New Year party tonight, open to all the customers in the community.
And the other A-plot story in the real Evelyn's real life is doing the taxes and the confrontation with Deidre in the office, which is how we open the film.
Mrs. Wang, are you with us?
And how we're going to close the film out, dealing with that tax issue.
I do think things are better. This is an improvement, and I'm glad that you listened.
Now, an interesting twist here. There's a shot of her at the upstairs office, surrounded by all these receipts and overwhelmed by the whole thing. This is at the very beginning of the film, and this is the moment where she starts to really regret her life, regret her marriage, regret this business, regret everything about her life. This leads us into the bulk of the story, of her now looking at every alternate version of her life that might have happened. And we only look at about 5 or 6, but the multiverse of alternate futures that she could have had. And once she's experienced all of this, we come back to that same table at the beginning of the everywhere section, but she has still not made a definitive choice to change her life. This goes down to quantum physics, which is, the Heisenberg principle. You probably know the Schrodinger's cat story. This is what Schrodinger's cat is all about, where until you look in the box, we don't know if the cat is either alive or dead. It could be either or. It could be both. It is both, technically speaking, in quantum physics. That's the weirdness of quantum. Every little choice we make, whether she puts that receipt to the left or the right, that now makes a decision fork that leads us into yet another possible future path. And there is infinite possible future paths based on every little choice that we make as individuals, and then, of course, every choice that everyone else makes that impacts upon us. And at the very end, in the all at once section, she makes a definitive choice. This is the quantum nature of this. So it's actually quite effective that the Daniels were able to keep this infinite variety of possible futures down to 5 or 6 to represent her full experience. And the key turning point here for the B story is when she then makes a point of introducing Joy's girlfriend, Becky, to the father as a girlfriend. Now there's another aspect to all of this. Joy's arc. What is going on with Joy? There are moments in this where Joe Patapaki, basically where she's talking about ending things. This is teenage angst. And I'll avoid saying the S word here because YouTube might flag this. But, this is a teenager going through a crisis, as a lot of teenagers do, and the relationship with their parents is changing as they grow into adulthood.
Nothing matters.
And the anxiety she's feeling over her mother and her parents and wanting that acceptance.
Feels nice, doesn't it? If nothing matters, then all the pain and guilt you feel for making nothing of your life goes away.
It's the love me, go away kind of syndrome, where they want the recognition, they want the love, but they don't want to open up about that.
What does she want? No one knows. All we know is she's looking for you.
This is why the scene as rocks becomes vitally important. As funny as it is, this is the first time they open up to each other. So when Evelyn finally introduces Becky to her father, this is killing two birds with one stone. It's actually giving Joy what she really wants, even though she won't admit it. And it's showing us that Evelyn is finally grown out of this sense of inadequacy, of always wanting to please her father. Going way back to her childhood when she was disowned, effectively, by her father for running away with Waymond.
唔接受，同緊要，因為呢個就係我。
And this then leads directly to her confronting Joy at the car, a scene we had at the beginning of the film where all she could say was,
You are getting fat.
this is the same moment. And she says it again.
You are getting fat. And you never call me, even though we have a family plan.
But now the conversation continues. And I love the part where Waymond tries to interrupt them.
Evelyn, 别说了，够了。
And Joy says,
Let her finish.
this becomes, in real life, an extension of that rock scene. This is where they're finally, as mother and daughter, communicating, as hard as it might be. And then there's an awkward hug at the end, of course. End of story, right? The whole point of this film is for Evelyn to get to a point where she can talk to her daughter openly and where she can talk to her father as her own person. She can stand up for herself. So all of the stuff that we went through in this film, of showing her all these alternate lives, basically comes down to the life you've chosen is the best life possible.
There is always something to love.
And that, I think, becomes the theme of the film, which comes down to try to find love and happiness where you are now. Try to accept what you have. She has a husband who loves her, who's very kind. She has a daughter who wants her love and loves her back. She has a father who's a bit difficult, but when it comes down to it, when he's finally met Becky properly, it's not a big issue. He accepts it. And even the lovely scene of Evelyn and Deirdre, where they have a brief moment together of empathy for each other.
You know what I say? It's called unlovable bitches like us. Make the world go round.
When you see the title cards of Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, these do not represent the actual three acts of the structure. In fact, the Everything is most of the film. The Everywhere becomes the title card for our Act 3, essentially, and then the All at Once is our denouement. To make things even more complicated, there are two symbols used in this film, one being the Google eyes, which represents the third eye, when Michelle Yeoh puts it on her forehead, obviously, but also becomes symbolic in a way of Waymond's kindness. This little symbol represents Waymond's lesson to Evelyn, if you like. The other one, of course, is the
Bagel.
It is her teenage angst, her despair. And she's trying to drag Evelyn into it with her.
Come on, Evelyn. Come on.
It becomes very symbolic of a parent-child relationship. And also then becomes representative of Joy's attitude to her own life and wanting perhaps to end it.
That bagel is where we finally find peace, Evelyn.
So Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, you kind of need to watch a couple of times to really get fully. It's one of those films where there is so much going on, but I love this film. I think it's a very original science fiction film. It's very low budget, considering. There's very little CGI. There's a lot of compositing in it, and just a lot of editing tricks. So it's a very relatively cheap film. And as the Daniels have said, they could not have made this without Michelle Yeoh in the lead. She's perfect for the role. And of course, she won the Oscar for it. So that's my take on Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. If you'd like to see more videos like this on other movies, you know what to do. If you'd like to learn more about filmmaking and indie filmmaking in particular, check out my book. I'll see you next time.